What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a documentary series that I watched on Netflix recently. And I don't always chat about documentaries on my channel, but when I do, I always try to talk about ones that I find really interesting or that bring up topics that I feel like are really poignant or relevant to today's society. The one that I just watched recently is all about the Fundamentalist Church of the Latter-day Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints in Salt Lake City, Utah. And this was one of the most depressing, disturbing things I've ever watched. Just getting a little bit of background into that church and what they were doing to the people in the community. I have a lot more to say about it in the review, but what I'm going to be talking about today is the Netflix documentary series Keep Sweet, Pray, and Obey. Keep Sweet, Pray, and Obey is directed by Rachel Dretzin and Grace McNally. In interviews and rare home video footage, ex-FLDS members share the truth about their isolated community and the events that pushed them to leave. So, as I said, this is a movie about fundamentalist religion in the Salt Lake City, Utah area, and the FLDS is a group that has existed for a very long time. They're widely known in Utah because they are a polygamist group where a lot of men there have multiple wives, and in the religion it's said that the people who thrive and the ones who succeed the most in the religion are the ones who get the most wives, and they're always controlled by a head called a prophet. The prophet is essentially viewed as a god, very much like the way that the Catholics view the Pope as a direct, messenger from God to them. That's how the FLDS views this prophet. And in this documentary series, we are introduced at a time period where an elderly man is the prophet. He's in his 70s or his 80s. I believe at that period in time he had 25 to 35 wives. A lot of the interviews conducted are women who were kind of forced to be his wives, and the things that they went through and the family dynamics that existed, and sometimes the complex family dynamics that existed, because you would have kids be born into families that have 10 or 11 or more mothers in the household, where they're trying to kind of find their place in the familial unit. And so at this period in time, that man had multiple sons, and he started to fall ill, and one of his other sons begins to take over. That son is more unhinged than that man was and begins to do things in the community that are more vile and awful than the things that they were already doing. And that is most of the documentary, is just kind of exploring the FLDS, this one man in particular, and the things that he did to manipulate an entire group of people. And I think documentaries like this are incredibly important because even though it is covering a very small subset of religion in the United States of America, I think that it says something about religion as a whole that I think is very important, because as most of you out there who have been watching me do videos for a couple of years now, you know the experience that I have with religion. I was born into a Christian household. My dad was a minister. I went to church up through my early 20s. I am 33 years old as of this year. I have not been involved in any form of organized religion or affiliated with any religion since probably my mid-20s. And so I grew up surrounded in that, and I saw kind of what that lifestyle is like. Obviously not to the extreme conservatism that exists in the FLDS, but I did see and was exposed to in my own life, being told how I could dress and how I could present myself, the movies that I could watch, the material that I could discuss around other people, words that I could say, ways that I had to, act in order to live up to a very specific role that I was supposed to play. A lot less of me having my own individuality and identity, but living up to the way other people need to perceive me. And that is the FLDS as a whole. If you are a woman, which most of the people in the FLDS from what I've seen are white, there's not a whole lot of people of color that are in the FLDS from this very specific documentary that I watched. But as far as the way women are treated by this group, they are viewed as nothing more than homemakers. They are people who are meant to have children, to raise the children, and to essentially shut their mouth and not do anything else. The amount of censorship on what they were allowed to read and what they were allowed to engage in is like eye-opening, especially when this younger man took over. He had so many books thrown out of their libraries. He didn't want people to be educated because essentially it's like The Handmaid's Tale. He just wanted them there to breed. And what was more disturbing about it than anything is the age that a lot of these women were married off at, because a lot of them weren't women. A lot of them were young girls from the ages of like 12 to 16 that were being forced into relationships with these men. They were forced to be mothers who were conceiving children at that age when they're not even, old enough to vote yet. And it was highly, highly disturbing to see the level of manipulation that was caused into this group of people. And because they are brainwashed into this lifestyle from a very early age, they don't know anything else. Because a lot of these women, the harrowing stories that really just kind of took me and shook me up a lot were the ones about, like, most of these women when they were younger knew nothing about sex. They did not know anything about intimacy. They're not told about any of that because it's not viewed as holy or anything. But of course, these men in these positions of power, they're using their positions of power to get sex. That's what they're doing. They want all of these wives, not because they feel like it's, real, true romantic love. It's like, I'm picking this person because I want to have sex with them. And because it holds value in their religion that sex must exist within the realm of marriage, they have 27 to 30 wives, because in that way, under God's eyes, their intimacy together is not frowned upon, because at least they were married. But they're not married under the state's terms, because it's illegal in the state of Utah, at least in the period of this documentary, for polygamy to exist in the state. So they're doing it all illegally anyways, but it's essentially just a manipulation tactic in order for these people to be able to have sex with women and minors. And it was so incredibly disturbing to hear the accounts from these really powerful women who went through a hell of a lot. And I was really happy to see a lot of them come out on the other side in a way that they're just fighting for people that are embedded in that religion and that have not had the ability to escape and get out of it. And watching their stories is really, really powerful. And obviously this is a subject that hits me very hard because of my own personal background, but I think that it should really open up a lot of our eyes to even bigger issues, because we live in a country now that is constantly attacking marginalized groups of people and that is utilizing politics or religious beliefs in order to say that certain humans can't exist in the way that they believe that they should. Their existence doesn't cause harm to other people. Their existence doesn't do anything to other people, whether that be trans people, gay people, people of color, any sort of marginalized group of people that is being told that they cannot live the lives that they should be allowed to live because of some religious belief system or some political ideology. Which anyone that tells you that any of these human rights fights where they're trying to ban gender affirming care or pass legislation against gay people, or even states that are trying to push against interracial marriage again, anyone that's trying to tell you that those are political agendas are wrong. It's all embedded in religion. All of this shit is embedded in conservative Christianity in the United States of America. There is no way around it. None of this shit should even be talked about because it's not political. It's all about religion. It's all about people wanting to force religious beliefs down people's throats. And watching documentaries like this show you the extremes of that and show you these religions that get into the real overt extremism. But we're not that far off in states like Florida and Texas, where they're like fascist regimes that are essentially trying to be Christian controlled governments, that there will be no minority groups or marginalized groups of people allowed in those states in the near future, because they just want it to be this bleach white conservative Christian straight cisgendered utopia in those those places' eyes, and it's just one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. And so when I watch documentaries like that, it makes it ever more poignant on how fighting against these extreme radical groups that are pushing to make the world a worse place is really upsetting and disheartening. And also looking at this religion in particular and how much sexual abuse came out of that, and the amount of people who were negatively affected by those things. It was just incredibly heartbreaking. And most of this in the 4-episode series is personal accounts from these people who have been through these really difficult things. And it really broke my heart, and it really upset me knowing these people went through that, because a lot of them, looking back on it now, they're just like, I didn't know any better. I didn't know what I was going through, because this was all what I've been taught since I was a young kid. And when you are completely and totally brainwashed into a belief system, you don't know any better. I think about my life when I was a teenager, and I was told that life was one thing and that this was it. And now as a 33-year-old adult, you think very differently. When you look back on it, you realize that you were brainwashed and that you were told to live a specific way, and that that's not how you have to live. And it's crazy to see all those people that got out of there that are not living that lifestyle anymore. And this was just a really eye-opening documentary that I think people should watch, especially if you're interested in this culture, or, like I said, the amount of parallels that it has to our current society was really eye-opening. And yeah, this one shook me up a lot. So have you seen Keep Sweet, Pray, and Obey? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this was a really poignant and eye-opening documentary that really shook me up a lot. The subject matter was really disturbing, and yeah, it's really thought-provoking, and I think it's worth the watch. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.